sentiments, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and resignation. "You are a wife now, Fatima," she would murmur, her voice barely above a whisper. "Your place is by Jubril's side, not of pursuing some foolish dream." And then there was Mrs. Danjuma, whose disapproval seemed to grow stronger with each. Fatima's Sorrow, Episode 5: Obstacles to Ambitions. In the days following their marriage, Fatima found herself navigating the delicate intricacies of married life with a cautious optimism. Their home, nestled amidst the ancient streets of Kano, bore witness to centuries of tradition and secrets buried deep within its walls. Jubril's family home, bustling with activity and adorned with the comforting sense of home-cooked meals, offered her a sense of sanctuary amidst the uncertainty that loomed over her. The flickering lamplight cast eerie shadows across the room, playing tricks on Fatima's mind as she surveyed her new surroundings. Everything seemed familiar yet foreign, as if she had stepped into a dream from which she could not awaken. Yet as Fatima crossed the threshold, she couldn't shake the feeling of unease that gnawed at the edges of her consciousness. Jubril's mother, Mrs. Danjuma, welcomed Fatima with open arms, her warm smile and gentle demeanor serving as a beacon of reassurance in the midst of unfamiliar surroundings. Mrs. Danjuma's presence provided Fatima with a sense of belonging, a reminder that she was now part of a larger family, bound together by ties of blood and kinship. Yet even amidst the warmth of familial bonds, Fatima found herself yearning for the familiar comforts of her own home. Fatima stood before their bedroom mirror, getting ready to join the family in the living room. Her reflection a portrait of conflicting emotions and uncertainty. Her hazel eyes, usually alight with curiosity, now held a hint of apprehension as she adjusted the folds of her hijab. She has embarked on a new chapter of her life, one that had been predetermined long before she was born. Just weeks ago, she had exchanged vows with Jubril, a young man she barely knew beyond their brief encounters during family gatherings, yet he has been chosen for her through the age-old tradition of arranged marriage. The weight of tradition bore down heavily on her shoulders, overshadowing any romantic notions she might have harbored. While Fatima had harbored dreams of furthering her education, her aspirations had been overshadowed by the weight of family expectations. Jubril's family home, adorned with vibrant tapestries and the scent of incense, felt both alien and strangely comforting. Fatima couldn't shake the sense of trepidation that gripped her heart. Her marriage to Jubril was not born out of love or passion, but rather out of duty and tradition. As she descended the staircase, Fatima caught sight of Jubril waiting at the bottom, his eyes meeting hers with a mixture of nervousness and anticipation. He was a stranger to her, a face she had seen only in passing during family gatherings and celebrations. Yet he was now her husband, bound to her by the ties of matrimony. Fatima offered a tentative smile, her heart pounding against the confines of her chest, her lips curving upwards in an attempt to mask the uncertainty that churned within her. Jubril returned her smile with a warmth that bordered on genuine, his hand reaching out to gently grasp hers as she descended the final steps. Jubril, ever the doting husband, took Fatima's hand in his own, his touch a comforting anchor in the sea of uncertainty that threatened to engulf her. "You look beautiful," he whispered, his voice barely more than a breath against her ear. But even as Jubril spoke those words, Fatima couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. A sense of foreboding hung heavy in the air, like a storm on the horizon waiting to unleash its fury upon the unsuspecting. As they stood face to face, Fatima couldn't help but wonder what lay in store for them. Would their union be one of mutual respect and understanding, or would it be marred by the constraints of tradition and expectation? Fatima's marriage to Jubril marked not only the union of two young souls, but also the convergence of two vastly different worlds. As they stepped over the threshold of their new home, the air was thick with anticipation, each footfall echoing like a heartbeat in the stillness of the night. Only time would tell, but for now, Fatima took solace in the knowledge that she was not alone. With Jubril by her side, she would navigate the uncertain waters of marriage, drawing strength from the bond that bound them together, however tenuous it may be. Months that followed, as they eagerly awaited their final exam results, Fatima and Jubril dreamed of their futures. Jubril, determined to pursue his passion for mechanical engineering, poured his heart into his studies. When the results arrived, he was overjoyed to find that he had passed with flying colors. But his journey didn't end there. He had to tackle the Joint Admissions and Matriculations Board (JAM) exams, a hurdle that he cleared successfully. With his admission to the University of Abuja secured, Jubril's dreams were coming true before his eyes. However, Fatima's aspirations faced a different challenge. Despite her desire to continue her education, the weight of tradition loomed over her like a shadow. In Hausa tradition, once a girl is married, her role is often confined to that of a homemaker. Education for married women is not always encouraged, let alone pursued. Fatima knew this all too well, but her thirst for knowledge burned brightly within her. Fatima found herself caught in a delicate dance, the steps of which were dictated by the conflicting rhythms of duty and desire. Jubril, her newly wedded husband, proved to be a man of gentle disposition, his eyes always alight with tenderness whenever they met hers. He was attentive to her needs, eager to please her in every way possible. Yet, despite his efforts to foster an atmosphere of marital bliss, an unspoken tension lingered between them, like a shadow cast over the sunlit expanse of their union. Fatima's heart, though tethered to Jubril by the bonds of matrimony, yearned for something beyond the confines of their shared home. It was not that she resented her husband or the life they were building together. Rather, it was a longing for self-discovery, for the pursuit of knowledge that tugged at the strings of her soul. She dreamed of the ivory towers of academia, of libraries filled with the wisdom of ages past, of lectures that stirred the intellect and challenged the mind. But in the world in which she lived, such dreams were deemed frivolous, the pursuit of education a luxury afforded only to men. Still, Fatima refused to be bound by the chains of tradition, to resign herself to a life confined to the domestic sphere. She was a woman of ambition, of drive, and she resolved to carve out a path of her own making, regardless of the obstacles that lay in her way. And so, with each passing day, she found herself wrestling with the conflicting impulses that waged war within her breast, the desire to fulfill her duties as a wife, and the longing to pursue her own dreams. It was on a cool autumn evening, the air heavy with the scent of jasmine and spice, that Fatima broached the subject with Jubril once more. They sat together on the veranda, sipping sweet mint tea as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the courtyard. "Jubril," Fatima began, her voice soft but resolute, "there is something I wish to discuss with you." Jubril turned to her, his expression warm but guarded, a flicker of apprehension in his eyes. "Of course, my dear," he said, though there was a hint of tension in his voice. "What is it that troubles you?" Fatima took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. "It is about my education," she said, her words measured. "I have been thinking a great deal about it lately, and I cannot shake the feeling that I'm meant for something more than the life of a housewife. I want to go to university," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. Jubril's brow furrowed slightly, his gaze searching hers for clues. "But Fatima, you are my wife," he said gently. "Your place is here by my side, caring for our home and our family." Fatima nodded, her heart heavy with the weight of his words. "I understand that, Jubril. I truly do," she said, "but I cannot ignore the fire that burns within me, the hunger for knowledge that consumes my soul. I want to learn, to grow, to become more than what society expects of me." For a long moment there was silence between them, broken only by the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze. Jubril studied her, his expression unreadable, before finally sighing and reaching out to take her hand in his own. "I cannot deny you your dreams, Fatima," he said, his voice tinged with sadness. "But you must understand that the path you seek is fraught with obstacles. The world is not kind to women who dare to defy convention, who seek to chart their own course." Fatima squeezed his hand, her eyes shining with determination. "I know it will not be easy, Jubril," she said, "but I am willing to face whatever challenges come my way. I cannot live a life of regret, wondering what might have been if only I had the courage to follow my heart." Jubril's gaze softened, his fingers tracing circles on the back of her hand. "Very well, my love," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "If this is truly what you desire, then I will stand by your side, come what may. Together we will face the world, and together we will overcome whatever obstacles lie in our path." And so in that moment, as the stars began to twinkle in the indigo sky above, Fatima and Jubril made a silent pact. To dance to the rhythm of their own hearts, to defy the constraints of tradition, and forge a destiny of their own making. It would not be an easy journey, nor would it be without its trials and tribulations. But as Fatima shared her dreams with her parents, their reactions were not as supportive. Malam Bada, her father, stood tall and resolute, a pillar of tradition and duty. He reminded her of her role as a wife, of the expectations placed upon her as a daughter of their household. "Education is a luxury, Fatima," he said, his voice firm but tinged with a hint of sorrow. "Your duty is to your husband and your home." Hajia Bintu, her mother, echoed similar sentiments, her eyes reflecting the weight of generations of expectation. "You have a husband now, Fatima," she said gently, her voice carrying the weight of years of tradition. "Your place is by his side, not in some university." But as the days turned into weeks, Fatima's resolve was tested at every turn. Her parents, Malam Bada and Hajia Bintu, remained steadfast in their opposition, their voices a constant reminder of the expectations placed upon her as a daughter of their household. Mrs. Danjuma, Jubril's mother, echoed her sentiments, her disapproval casting a shadow over Fatima's dreams. "It's not proper for a young wife to pursue education," Mrs. Danjuma declared, her voice laced with disdain. "Your place is by your husband's side, not wasting your time in some university." Fatima felt the weight of their disapproval like a millstone around her neck, threatening to drag her down into the depths of despair. But even in the face of such opposition, she refused to abandon her dreams. With Jubril's unwavering support by her side, she dared to believe that anything was possible. The days stretched into weeks, and Fatima found herself grappling with the weight of expectation and the pull of her dreams. Each morning, she woke with a sense of purpose, determined to pursue her aspirations despite the obstacles in her path. And each night, as she lay beside Jubril, she found comfort in his unwavering support, a reminder that she was not alone in her struggle. But as the weeks turned into months, the rift between Fatima and her family deepened, casting a shadow over their once close relationship. Malam Bada and Hajia Bintu remained resolute in their opposition to Fatima's desire for higher education, their words a constant reminder of the traditions that bound them. "You have a duty to your husband and your home," her father would say, his voice tinged with disappointment. "Education is a luxury that we cannot afford." Hajia Bintu echoed his sentiments, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and resignation. "You are a wife now, Fatima," she would murmur, her voice barely above a whisper. "Your place is by Jubril's side, not of pursuing some foolish dream." And then there was Mrs. Danjuma, whose disapproval seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. She would visit Fatima's home, her words like poison as she reinforced the idea that a young wife's place was within the confines of her husband's home, not out in the world pursuing her own ambitions. But through it all, Fatima remained resolute in her determination. With Jubril's unwavering support bolstering her spirits, she refused to let the doubts and fears of others extinguish the flame of her dreams. Together, they plotted and planned, exploring every possible avenue for Fatima to pursue her education while still fulfilling her duties as a wife. Despite their opposition, Fatima clung to the flicker of hope ignited by Jubril's support. She refused to let go of the dreams that had sustained her through years of conformity and expectation. Perhaps, she thought, she could defy the odds and pursue her aspirations, even in the face of adversity. Fatima found herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions. On one hand, she reveled in the freedom of her newfound marriage, in the love and support of her husband. On the other hand, she felt the weight of tradition pressing down on her, threatening to suffocate the flicker of hope that burned within her heart. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, Fatima's resolve to pursue her education only grew stronger. With Jubril's unwavering support, she began to explore the possibilities that lay before her, seeking out opportunities to expand her knowledge and enrich her mind. At first, it was a daunting task. In a society where women's roles were strictly defined and their aspirations often relegated to the sidelines, Fatimah faced resistance at every turn. But she refused to be deterred, drawing strength from the love and encouragement of her husband. Yet as the days wore on, the rift between Fatimah and her family deepened, threatening to tear apart the fragile bonds that held them together. Malam Bada's stern demeanor grew colder, his disapproval casting a shadow over every interaction with his daughter. Hajia Bintu, once a source of comfort and guidance, now seemed distant and withdrawn, her eyes haunted by the weight of tradition. And then there was Mrs. Danjuma, whose presence seemed to linger like a dark cloud over the household. Her disapproval hung in the air like a suffocating fog, poisoning the atmosphere with each passing moment. But through it all, Fatimah and Jubril remained undeterred. They refused to let the negativity of others dampen their spirits, choosing instead to focus on the bright future they envisioned together. Yet, as the days turned into weeks, the pressure continued to mount, threatening to crush their dreams beneath its weight. Fatimah found herself torn between her love for Jubril and her duty to her family, her heart a battleground where conflicting loyalties waged war. And then, just when it seemed that all hope was lost, a glimmer of light appeared on the horizon. A letter arrived, bearing the seal of a prestigious university, offering Fatimah a scholarship to pursue her dreams of higher education. The news sent shockwaves through the household, sparking a frenzy of emotions as Fatimah's family grappled with the implications of her acceptance. Malam Bada's face darkened with anger, his fists clenched in frustration. Hajia Bintu's eyes brimmed with tears, torn between pride and sorrow. As the tension between Fatimah's desires and her family's expectations reached a fever pitch, she knew that a decision was imminent. Would she bow to the weight of tradition, sacrificing her own aspirations for the sake of familial harmony? Or would she defy the odds, risking everything to pursue the dreams that burned within her heart? But amidst the chaos, Fatimah stood tall, her eyes ablaze with determination. She would not let anyone else dictate the path she chose to follow. With Jubril by her side, she would forge her own destiny, determined to chase her dreams to the ends of the earth. With that decision, Jubril and Fatimah sought out mentors who were willing to take a chance on a woman with a thirst for learning. They scoured the city for libraries and study groups, where Fatimah could immerse herself in the world of academia and engage in spirited debates with her peers. Slowly but surely, Fatimah began to carve out a place for herself in the world of scholarship. She devoured books with an insatiable hunger, her mind expanding with each new idea and discovery. She attended lectures and seminars, soaking up knowledge like a sponge and eager to contribute her own unique perspective to the discourse. But as Fatimah delved deeper into her studies, she could not shake the feeling of guilt that gnawed at her conscience. She knew that by pursuing her own dreams, she was neglecting her duties as a wife and a homemaker. There were days when the house fell into disarray, when meals went uncooked and laundry piled up, as Fatimah lost herself in the pursuit of knowledge. And yet, through it all, Jubril remained steadfast by her side. He took on more of the household chores, sacrificing his own time and energy to support Fatimah in her endeavors. He listened patiently as she poured out her hopes and fears, offering words of encouragement and reassurance when she needed them most. But even as Fatimah flourished in her studies, she could not escape the whispers of doubt that plagued her mind. Was she being selfish, she wondered, to prioritize her own ambitions over the needs of her family? Was she risking everything for the sake of a dream that may never come to fruition? It was during one particularly dark night of the soul that Fatimah found herself grappling with these questions, her heart heavy with uncertainty. She sat alone in their modest home, the flickering flame of a candle casting eerie shadows on the walls as she wrestled with the demons of doubt that threatened to consume her. Only time would tell, but for now, Fatimah took solace in the knowledge that she was not alone. With Jubril by her side, she would navigate the uncertain waters of marriage, drawing strength from the bond that bound them together, however tenuous it may be. The story continues. Watch out for episode 6. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, share, comment, and press notification button. See you in the next episode.